I love it because I got a team of 5 gents who come from a shooting background but haven't shot themselves. So taking them through literally entry level on how to hold the gun to how to shoot a target. And we've been shooting for about a year now. They're getting on okay. 2 of them have their licenses, which is great. Forwarded your video and they loved it because it was concise, it was to the point.
Brilliant.
And you didn't have to faff around for half an hour to get the answers. It was sort of, that's what I need to do. Pick up the gun, I know what to do, and that's it. That's what I do when I pick up the gun. And that's what we look for. And it was concise, it was really well presented, or is well presented. And it's really, really clear, to the point. And they loved it. So
that's brilliant feedback, and that is the aim. And the interesting thing is that I've found with a lot of novices, the sort of larger hurdle, apart from actually learning to shoot, is confidence and fear. And really, it's a lack of confidence due to the fear of what other people think. So they're a bit green, they come into a school, lots of people like we were talking about earlier. And so it's being able to simplify, break that down, so you can then, hopefully ignore what's around you and focus on. And that becomes a very fluid, nice thing. So you're trying to, it's that very difficult balance always of trying to give concise, clear, relevant information, but not rambling on and on, so it almost becomes a cure for insomnia.
I found it excellent. I mean, when I first started shooting, was YouTube around? Yeah, it probably was around. But going into shooting even more, there was hardly anything sort of British-based. It was all American stuff.
Yes.
There was a chap, I can't remember his name.
Wasn't an older chap with glasses, not by the name of Gil Ash.
Yeah, him.
Do you know what? I used to watch his stuff just for fun. There was something, I mean, he's atypical, of his
American.
type. Proper American. But there was something really, I found really sort of heartwarming about him. There was something, I don't know, there was just something I just enjoyed. It was almost quite funny because he'd do these sort of really quite dramatic looks and then pause for 3 seconds and then and you thought, oh no, what's going next? And it was just something, funny enough, we were talking about this the other day as well, literally.
And I used to
he's been around forever.
Yeah. I remember watching his stuff and it was literally quite long to get to the point.
Yes.
So I quite like the way you have sort of, you don't mess around.
Well,
straight to it.
Well,
and you can get the answers that you want. And concentration span of people nowadays is limited, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing. And if it's new as well, it seems like a big mountain to climb, doesn't it? Everything's easy when you know. And I must admit, I mean, I used to watch him stupidly just because of him.
Yeah.
Obviously, being a coach, I was, without sounding big-headed, I was sort of, pretty much au fait with everything he said. Yeah. But I did take heed from it that they have these sort of diagrams and watch the red dot and and I could see that actually for some maybe you
that
might think, well,
me.
Hold on a minute, where's the gun, where's the
that confused me when I saw it.
So I think nice and crisp, I mean that's the way we work, it's nice and clean, it's crisp, it's not rushed, but it's about just hitting home the relevant points and then detailing as is required.
Very similar to my field if you think about it. I mean, you have different clients. Some clients want to hear about the heritage and the history of the jumper buttons, and you can take them through it for a few hours. And then you've got clients who almost know what they want, and they just want to get it done and out. So I understand. So it's like catering to both. How do you?
Yeah, lots of similarities.
Yeah, so you almost got to figure the person out and then warm to.
Exactly. Yeah. It's client-based. No two people are the same. So, Viraj Singh.
Yes.
The Jobber Company.
At last.
You're here.
Yeah, at last.
Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning.
Welcome to the Hownhall podcast. And I'm really thrilled. I'm totally thrilled. Really, really excited because I'm a bit of a Luddite. I'm not massively into technology, but obviously we followed you some 5-6 years ago. And now we're sat here and we have shared passions and, lots of other interests. And I think, isn't that the lovely side of social media?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's an awesome setup you have, I must say.
Our pleasure.
It's cozy, it's homely, and feel like I've been here before, but I haven't. But going back to the Instagram, the power of a hashtag, Phenomenal. You meet incredible people, like-minded people, and that's what I find quite amazing. And we started following one another as soon as we had put our Instagrams out together. So you had started the Hownhall and I started the job company at the same time. So we've seen each other grow, which is lovely as well.
Yeah, and you've grown a bit quicker than we have, I think.
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that.
A very impressive, nearly 12,000 followers, I noticed.
Yes, but I think a lot of people, they get too overwhelmed with followers and likes and that sort of thing. I think you've got to stay true to what you do, and ultimately you've got to be happy. We're in a day and age now. You think about mental health and this sort of stuff, and people are trying to get verified, the blue tick and likes and followers, and your life becomes too social media dedicated, which is important, but you've also got to have the balance.
Well, there's the fear of edited highlights, as Benita likes to say, and it portrays a false representation. And sadly, a lot of people are governed by that. And so I think, or led by that, or influenced by that. So I think that's the sort of maybe the slightly, not so much dangerous, but the slightly negative side of things.
Yeah, of course.
We yes, it's nice to have followers. I would say actually, Instagram has created the sort of meetings with, lovely people like yourself today. Has it necessarily put money in the till day on day? No. But it serves a purpose in different areas. So for us, it isn't a climb for followers as such. I'd rather have less realistic followers than a ream of, and I see some of these feeds with hundreds of thousands. You think, really? Where is that real value? What I do find strange, actually, not to hang on Insta too long, is when you see someone with 100,000 followers, yet when they put their posts up, they're averaging 3,000 likes. And you think, how does that compute?
Yeah.
There's all these followers, but yet this minimal sort of comeback on. Yeah. So I don't know. But
that's maybe I'm a dinosaur, so I'm not very techie myself. But I know there's a whole world.
If you're a dinosaur, I'm a caveman, right?
Well, there's a whole thing of buying likes and people who work purely for not for Instagram, but they work in the whole social media side of it, and their job is to get those likes and get you those followers, and a lot of people pay for it as well. So it's a whole different ball game. But going back to our meeting on Instagram, I must have used the right hashtags, because when you were on Instagram, or when you started using Instagram, did you search for hashtags and just let's see what came up?
I can't remember how it. Well, really, you must have popped up. How does this work? Hold on a minute, because you'd be on our feed if we followed you, but how would we have found you?
My hashtags haven't changed in all these years.
Right.
So it would be vintage, shooting, hunting, British, shotgun.
Yeah.
So these are good hashtags to use.
Yeah.
And that's how we probably found each other.
Yes.
Which is, similar.
I suppose it's probably under the shotgun hashtag then, really, because we look to sort of, link with like-minded to then spread. I guess I can't really remember and I don't even think there was a plan. I can say, hand on heart, for whatever reason you popped up, I saw the clothing and I thought, that's stunning.
Yeah. Did it intrigue you, the clothing?
Well, it did actually, because I thought it was a very interesting mix. This is my blunt terminology, the Indian English crossover. Absolutely. Okay. I also I'm not I'm a million miles away from being any form of style icon with clothing, but there's quite a lot of the same thing.
Yes.
Okay. And to be blunt, what I noticed straight away, apart from some of the beautiful women on the feed, were the Nehru collars, so the tunics, but rather than as I see it, the atypical sort of Indian style tunic, which is in itself a beautiful thing, but a tunic, yours was sort of in the form of what I call a shooting vest. So rather than just being a neat, almost like, our equivalent of an armless cardigan, it was more robust, it was tailored, had shape, had the pockets. So it's like a field garment, but with this very classy. And I think, the Nehru collar is really cool. I just like a Nehru collar.
The reason why I asked you that, it was so it confused people. Is it Indian? Is it a British brand?
Yeah.
What is it? We're confused. Does it
Well, you-
belong in this period, or is it something that's 100 years old or 150 years old? And that's what I wanted to do at the very beginning, is
you've
to
done that.
confuse people. Where,
Yeah.
what is it? Is it a crossover?
Well, you were ahead of your time, because I've only, and again, I'm, I work in the school. I teach people how to shoot. I've just started to notice, sort of, semi and well-known tweed manufacturers, clothing manufacturers that are within our industry, that have now gone over
Yeah.
to including that Nehru detail.
Yeah, of course. I'll go on to the functionality a little bit later, but I think it would be quite handy for me to tell you how we came to being.
Well, it was interesting, because I know you, when we spoke last week, you mentioned about the family sort of stemming from Jodhpur, and I was interested in the was it the sort of, in the modern terminology, a live wire called Joda, that actually, through sort of obviously having a few battles and fights, sort of took territory and created then what has become Jodhpur.
Yes.
And that in doing that, was then, I think, or maybe it was purposeful or by default, created then what I sort of know as a silk road, a road that then allowed fine metals, woods, silks or materials and so on to then be sort of, moved around, and therefore then Jodhpur became well known as a market city.
Yep.
And I found equally interesting, and we can break these down and talk about them later, that now it is a hub, a centre for educational institutions.
Yes.
And there are
crafts.
there's a real ream of diverse but absolute sort of pinpointed, institutions that teach about some pretty amazing things. So what a history. And and one thing I don't know, it's called the Blue City.
Yes.
Why?
So if you go to Jodhpur, if you look at all the buildings, they're all painted blue. Rumor has it it's to keep the mosquitoes away, and there's various other stories behind it. Where Jaipur, the Pink City, and that was done when the prince at that time, it could be the Duke of Windsor, who had a visit to Jaipur, and in honour of him, they painted all the buildings pink. So Jaipur is known as the Blue City, and Jaipur known as the pink.
Interesting.
So that's Rajasthan, so the land of the Rajas. So
Yes.
my father was born there. My grandfather shifted there. So we originally come from a place which is south of Jodhpur. So my grandfather shifted there in the early 1900s, which is quite exciting in the sense that if I had said to you, the reason why we went to Jodhpur and my family set up base there, it was to do with wild boar hunting. It wasn't because they used to hunt wild boars, but what had happened was my grandfather's sister got married into a tiny principality in the region Jodhpur, Marwar, and he got killed going pig sticking. So this sister of my grandfather had all this land and didn't know what to do with it. So she had to fight court cases and that sort of thing. So my grandfather shifted up there and just stayed there in Jodhpur. Imagine what to do with
But I love
pig sticking.
I love the glamour, because Singh is the lion,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? Or the eminent person.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it sounds very grand.
So what I'll do is I'll just touch on the history slightly.
Yes.
Because it will give you a better picture or painting. So I happen to belong to, I'm a Hindu, firstly and foremost. And within Hinduism, you get various castes.
Yes.
So I happen to belong to the Rajput caste. And the Rajputs were landowners, warriors, a military race. And they're jotted all over India. Finally concentrated within the Rajasthan and Gujarat region. But they are dotted everywhere, all around India.
And just to cut in briefly, and actually just to back up my thoughts as well, just for anybody listening who's thinking caste, could I suggest that was loosely an equivalent to, in the UK, working class, middle class, upper class? Is that the different castes? Would that be a good comparison or not? caste.
It can be, but it's what you did for a living, how you made your money.
Right.
So if you were a cobbler or shoemaker, you belong to a mochi caste, sorry. And if you were a Brahmin, you would belong to a priestly caste. So you would be in the temples, performing various rituals for other people. So it's almost like how I describe it as the Lion King, when Mufasa takes Simba out into the jungle and he says, son, this is a grasshopper. They have a role and this is what they do with the grass. And it's like a circle of life. So that's how I describe the Hindu caste system.
Yes.
Without one person, the other person can't work.
So, so are you all equal, or are you on different levels of importance? Let's say, for a want of a better term.
I don't want to sound pompous
No.
or rude,
No.
but there is a hierarchy structure.
I think it exists everywhere. It just
Yeah.
comes in different names and guises, right?
Even within the Rajput clans and the
Yes.
princely states, you would have a gun salute state, which the British gave the princely state with a 21 gun salute state. And they'll be, a bit more grander than the ones that were of a lesser gun salute,
Yes.
which the British obviously gave to the princely
Yes.
states. So
Yes.
there is that element of that, what you're talking about. But I just feel that in terms of one community flourishing, you needed another community to back you up. So you're working in tandem. So, as I said, I belong to Rajput caste, and Rajput literally meaning son of a king. So Raja meaning king.
Yes.
There were landowners. There were warriors. From time immemorial. I can trace my own lineage back 1,000. Our family tree goes back 1,000 years.
Incredible.
And we can go beyond that to Lord Krishna. Wow. But I won't talk about that too much because it's very, very complex. So you've got these military clans that are jotted over India, and the British rightfully called them the martial clans, the martial races. Yes. So within these martial races, you would have the Gurkhas, which are quite famous.
Gurkhas are incredible.
Yeah.
Utterly incredible.
I remember going for my TA induction in Pirbright with the army, the rifles, and they're all Gurkhas. The staff were all Gurkhas, and formidable warriors.
Oh, they've made for a small setup. They've made an enormous difference.
Yes.
I think on many occasions.
And then you have your Sikhs,
Yeah.
who also have Singh as a middle name. They adopted it later, much later than Rajputs, but we share the same martial heritage. Even the names are very, very similar, and various ceremonies that we do where we worship the sword, very, very similar. So belonging to this martial race or this clan, weapons were almost godly like.
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
Don't worry.
I think
it's
that's
a modern day. Don't worry. It's my fault for not saying, I've put my phone on airplane mode. But you don't have to if you don't want to. It makes it real.
So,
please carry on.
So weapons for a soldier, that was your tool. That was your bread and butter. And being a Rajput, weapons are sacred.
Yes.
And then we go into weaponry, to how to use them. What were they used for? And this brings me on to hunting, shooting, firearms. Now we look at it as we need to cull a herd to look after the species. But before, for a Rajput man or a Sikh man or a Gurkha to keep his martial valor, skill intact, he would have to go and hunt to know his sword is performing well, or his bow and arrow is performing well, or his marksmanship skills are fantastic before going into battle. Yeah. And so, as I said, we shifted from region in Gujarat to Jodhpur, pronounced Jodhpur, in case any Indians watch this podcast and think, he's gone all English on us. But so we shifted to Jodhpur, and the amount of princely states that are within Gujarat and Rajasthan are amazing. So you're talking hundreds of states, offshoots of a different clan setting up a place, and they would all go into battle with one another. You could be a distant uncle of someone else's, and you would go into war with, the neighbouring clan. So hunting was a huge way of keeping that martial skill intact.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and for the Rajputs, they didn't like firearms. They came to firearms a lot later. For them, it was all about sword, buckler, lance.
Yes.
So that's why when we hunted, sort of the way we went about it was on horseback, with lance and spear and sword.
Yes.
And that brings us on to sort of the spiritual link between hunting.
Well, I was going to say, actually, because am I right in saying that, well, obviously I have a basic understanding that the Hindu religion is this sort of circle of life, this sort of cycle of things happening, dying, growing,
So-
being, and actually, am I right in saying that as a Hindu specifically, there may be other religions that share this, but you would only eat the meat that you've killed. You kill meat to eat. You don't go out and, it wasn't about killing things unnecessarily. It's all part of this cycle that you...
A bit of both. Now, if you have a look at the Hindu structure, if you speak to any Hindus in the UK, by and large, they're vegetarians. They believe in non-violence, you shouldn't kill, and to have a diet which is meat-free. But you look at the Rajputs and the martial clans, it's completely different. So within the caste systems, you've almost got different ideologies and different things that they would believe in. So for us, we would have our own deity that was specific to the Rajput clans, which say someone with the surname, I don't know, a Patel wouldn't worship. They wouldn't. They would look at our rituals as alien. They wouldn't understand it. So our caste and the Rajputs and the warrior clans of India, they were by and large meat eaters.
Right.
They ate meat.
Yeah.
There's a thing of not eating beef.
Yes.
But we'll get onto that afterwards. But
Yes.
my family, we've been eating meat for hundreds of years. It's part of our diet, and our diet consisted of grouse, black buck, nilgai, various deers and antelope. It is part of our makeup. It is who we are.
And this is, am I right in saying this is where you learnt to shoot, wasn't it? That when you, was it mother and father that moved to the UK?
Yes.
And then your UK, obviously born in the UK, but that you used to, which I thought was a lovely story, you travel back, was it with your grandfather, or to see your grandfather and to learn to shoot back in India using rifles?
Yeah, of course.
Incredible.
So being a part of the Rajput clans and sort of hunting, knowing your ancestors' tools being very, very important to us, there's a specific day in our calendar where the Rajputs will take out their weapons and clean it. And that's a religious day for us. It's like Easter or anything else that you would celebrate here.
Yes.
And we have that in our calendar. It's called Dasera. So we'll take out all of our weapons, we'll clean it, we'll do a whole ritual, and it's based purely behind our weapons. So doing this from a young age, I was always infatuated with, not so much the weapon itself, but the craft and manufacturing and what it did, and could it slice through paper, and was it functional? Yes. So I was always infatuated with that. But coming from the background that I come from, my dad was very keen for me and my brother to not forget our roots. And he used to send us to India to ride horses and shoot. And I think when he came here, being in London, you're not exposed to shooting and the equestrian life too much.
Only in a post office. That's it, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
They don't have horses to get away on.
Yeah. So
horsepower.
Exactly. So he was quite busy, making money, trying to set a foundation up for the family, grinding, and he didn't want me and my brother to forget our roots, so he would send us off to India. I mean, my first exposure to hunting was at the age of 4, and that's the first time I went from UK, being sort of, English, UK born and bred to a certain extent. He sent us to India. He came along. I was 4 years old. My brother wasn't born at that point, and I remember meeting my uncles, speaking to them on the phone all the time.
Yes.
And my God, if you brought them over here, you would get on like a house of fire. amazing folks.
Yeah.
Some of them belong to the army. So obviously, being from a Rajput background, most of the men took up jobs in the armed forces, police. So they come from that army background. So you can imagine very strict rules. You get up at 5 o'clock, even if you've got nothing to do. You're showered, you're changed, and you're sitting there and you're having breakfast at a certain time.
And is this This is related to being Hindu.
This is
about the bathing in the morning and washing off and
yes,
meditating
yes.
and so on.
But I'm talking about my clan in particular.
Yes,
because it's changed now, or it is changing.
There's a lot of discipline, isn't there?
A lot of discipline. So belonging to that clan that I belong to, the Marshall clan, it was very regimental, very stringent. So I remember going into the compound, and the compound itself belonged to one of the Maharajas of that region. I won't name the region because we're going to talk about hunting, obviously. So I won't name the region. But anyway, it was given to my uncle's father, and it was a shooting lodge for when the British were there. And they were trading in cattle. And so my great uncle was sort of ADC or right-hand man to the then Maharaja. So my great uncle had four sons, and those 4 sons became my heroes. Just looking at them in the field and knowing their craft and what they did and the way they dressed. But their dressing was completely different. It was more westernized. So the big chunky Budweiser, Winchester buckles with a check shirt and cowboy boots. They were literally cowboys. And the elder brother, he's regarded as one of the best bull breeders in India right now. So the wealth of knowledge I was blown away with. So I had seen taxidermy, that, Van Ingen stuff that was sort of caged, beautifully done, and I was blown away by it. And I remember going on my first shoot, 4 years old, and the magic and the social element. And we went at night and we shot bunnies. So we were literally lamping from a gypsy 1 litre Jeep,
yes,
an open truck.
Yes.
And I remember the social element behind it was amazing. We had some cousins from England come over. We had ladies attend. We had our own court singers that were singing
Incredible.
old bards. We had the whiskies flowing. So being in that moment, it was a party. And I was almost spellbound. And I looked up to these uncles as absolute heroes, and I wanted to emulate them. See, being exposed to that, I had family members, at that same time that were exposed to it, but it takes a certain person to take to it, to warm to it.
Yes.
And living in that compound, or that where the brothers live, there was always something wrong with a bull, and we had to pick the bull up and give it a shot of something, so just to bring it back to life. I've got another uncle who literally lives 2 doors away. He's massively into falconry, prey birds, and he used to repair birds, and he still does repair birds. So I was amazed, because a London boy, I wasn't exposed to this. So I was in another world.
Well,
completely.
I find it interesting, the thought of, and I don't want to go off on a political thing or race thing or anything like that, but, as I learn more and I listen, you are so incredibly disciplined within your religion, within your clan, within your religion, larger scale, passionate, committed. The British coming in, back in the day, that surely must have been met with sort of a horror, really, because it strikes me that you're so very proud as a religion, as a race. And you say about those influences coming in, but I would imagine that was, sort of generally speaking.
Yeah.
I'm going to use the word irritating. That's the wrong word, but now I'm beginning to understand. And I think, wow, you wouldn't need anybody. You don't need anybody else.
No, in fact,
it sounds like a beautiful, balanced. And when we talked on the phone, I used the word, in ignorance, colonial.
Exactly.
And I used the word colonial, and I'll tell you why I used the word. One, because I'm slightly ignorant, without, that wasn't sort of a conscious thought. It just flew out. And I relate that word to architecture, so it's very generalised. It has no link to skin colour, race. It's we've got the buildings of the vernacular period, colonial, for me personally. Yeah. But of course, I thought about it after we spoke, and I can see that can have a very, very different feel.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, we're exposed to more. We can learn at our fingertips. We can go on a computer and type in something into Google and get the information up straight away, or we can go to libraries and read about it extensively.
But a lot of people are still very ignorant.
No.
Amazing, really.
No, absolutely, but it's got more of a negative than a positive audience right now. I mean, you've got various Oxford lectures, which are, they talk about, Britain owing an apology to India because of colonialism,
Yes.
And that's at your fingertips. You can go on YouTube. So, the youngsters, they might take the negative light and not look at the positives, some of the positives that have come out of the whole colonial industry.
Yes.
So, obviously, there's certain things that really bug me, and I feel, why did that happen? It shouldn't have happened, and it's bad. But if you look at my garments, they are of that period. They are sort of colonially inspired or tailored garments. And one thing that we need to look at is, yes, there are a lot of negatives that were involved with colonialism, but there were a few positives as well. And, we talk about in pursuit of excellence.
Yes.
And we look at craft.
Yes.
And craft of that period, certain craft, was in its zenith. Yes. Like, you can't replicate it. And it hasn't been documented enough for people to know about that craft. So we're talking about, we're talking about architecture. We're talking about language. We're talking about culinary delights, food.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So when I did set the Jodhpur company up, the main celebration, as it were, was to celebrate that cross-pollination of culture.
Yes.
And celebrate some of the positives. And for me, it was the tailoring and incorporating that military cavalry background and some of the hunting that goes with it.
Brilliant. So that leads me on beautifully, because I wanted to ask, and we can carry on exactly in that strain, but just to paint the picture, just a little bit of history behind that. The tailoring runs in your family. And runs back to, I assume, the days of silk and Jodhpur and those beautiful, traditional garments. Have I got this wrong, or is someone in your family the creator, or was the creator of the Jodhpur garment?
Not someone from my family,
right?
But he was a Rajput man. See, if you have heroes within the Rajput community, you look up to them. And we have many heroes. So Sir Pratap Singh, British general, he was the Maharaja Regent of Jodhpur. He is one of my heroes. We're not directly related to him, but him being a Rajput and me being a Rajput, we have that connection straight away.
Of course.
So he was the gentleman who brought the Jodhpurs over here into UK, and I will go into that a bit more. But that whole cross-pollination of the tailoring and it being at its zenith then, there's certain things that have been lost. So my whole aim, passion, and goal was to strive to revive certain arts and crafts.
So it's interesting, isn't it? And so, and with a lot of wonderful things that occur, it's almost, and I believe the world is made up of pluses and minuses. And it's almost, you can do something good to create something wonderful, or it might not come to anything. Yeah. But also something hideous or negative can happen, but from that can flourish wondrous positive things.
Yeah, of course.
And so I see you here now, and I look at this, what I call crossover, which drew us straight to your, Instagram page those 6 odd years ago.
Yeah.
With this amazing sort of new wave of traditional, I'm just going to be just totally general, traditional Indian styling with British field tailoring, but put in a melting pot, creating this amazing thing of which we talked about earlier, we are now seeing replicated 6 years later.
See, the thing is, I had the youth in mind when I was creating the Jodhpur company. I wanted to create something for the youngsters British Asians, so they could understand that this is the way our ancestors used to dress. This is what they used to wear, on a daily basis. Or if they were in a field, or they took part in country pursuits, as many of their forefathers did. I didn't want these stories to be jotted down in a history book somewhere where no one would pick up, and it would be collecting dust on a bookshelf. I wanted to bring it out visually, because if you look at the youth of today, they're on Instagram, they're on various YouTube, podcasts and vlogs and that sort of stuff. They want to see things in bite-sized chunks, and they also want to see things visually. So I said to myself, how can I tell that story visually? How can they understand it straight away? And that's why when I asked you, how did you find us? Did you find our garments a bit? Hang on a second. What's this? Did it confuse you? Because that's exactly what I wanted.
And I would absolutely tell you honestly. I'm quite basic, sadly, and I just looked at them and I thought, they're really cool. They're really cool. And actually, I thought, as I said to you, again, I keep saying things I said earlier, but the cut of the shooting vest, traditionally here, V-neck, so you can see the collar and tie, and sadly, some brands, they tend to make that top button much higher. And for people my size, it makes you look like a box. They look ridiculous. So I did get a beautiful one made specifically for a shooting school when I worked there, and it was designed by sort of a well-known company, and theirs was a lower cut. And that's one of my favourite vests. Yeah. I've worn it to death. Yeah. But then, like I say, your styling, the surface-mounted pockets, that's not a tailored term, that's my term, and all those little USPs that you incorporate. No, I thought it was fabulous. And actually, I thought it was really interesting, and I bet a lot of people don't realise, jodhpurs, I call them jodhpur, I know it's jodhpur, jodhpur, that question people wear, that sort of close-fitting, tight, like a legging, but with reinforcement. Actually, probably don't realise that the original style had this very exaggerated top half.
The elephant ear.
Sorry?
The elephant ear.
Elephant ear. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And now I can see now that when certainly you're on horseback, you're going to wear riding boots. They're going to come up pretty much to under the knee. Yeah. And then from there above, you've got this total freedom of movement.
Of course.
Superb.
Yeah, no.
But I saw on your feed as well, and this is looking recently, there were a particular pair that you made in what I'm going to call a sort of a khaki sort of green. And I looked at them and I thought that surely, that's sort of almost catwalk-esque. It's sort of, they're really classy.
Yeah.
I can see those people walking around central London with them. I mean, they look really lovely.
Yeah. And it's about how can we modernise history with a touch of heritage, but so the heritage lives on, but it spills onto a contemporary take, and that's what it was. And how. Obviously, I'm a bit of a history nerd, and I like heritage. And my dream is to obviously revive this. And I think we're doing a great job at it. But the main reason for the Jodhpur company was due to the tailoring that took place here 10 years ago. Ready-to-wear stuff. It would fit a little bit odd, very, very boxy. Not fitted. I used to, I haven't hit the gym for a long time, but I used to bodybuild. So I used to pump iron all day, at the gym, and I was very sort of chest heavy. Shoulders were very, very large, and I always had problems fitting into whatever I wore.
That's exactly the same problem I have, Viraj. Yeah, that's it. Sort of, top heavy, mini waist, terrible.
And when you're putting on a heavy fabric, that can be very, very awkward. And heavy fabric that's not tailored to you can hang. And I use the terminology, a walking fridge. You almost can look like a walking fridge. So 10 years ago, when I first started shooting driven game over here, I wanted to wear something that related to my heritage, something that my grandfathers wore, and many of the princely states that we have close connections with. So immediately, it was the Jodhpur bottoms and the Nehru collar. And I was a bit fed up with wearing breeks and a three-piece suit. Just didn't feel comfortable in it. Felt
you
boxy.
made most of the other guns look bloody untidy, I bet.
But saying that is exactly how the brand was born. It was born in the field through this, ongoing obsession with functionality. And that comes from it's in my blood. It comes from the swords, the weapons, and it being battle perfect. Taking that battle perfect element into the field. Now, you said, Viraj, you come from a long blood of tailors. I don't. We come from a long bloodline of military warriors, and that's what we were. But my grandfather had his own tailors, and without his tailors, my grandfather, couldn't go about doing certain things. He couldn't mount a horse and ride if he didn't have his jodhpurs. If the tailors weren't up to scratch, he couldn't do that. And my grandfather used to take Marwari stallions, which is the famous jodhpur breed of horse, and used to take them back to Gujarat. So you're talking, it's probably from Scotland to London to ride in. So his jodhpurs had to be perfect. So we are using that generation family of tailors now, but they're offshoots, obviously, from my grandfather's time. So it's all about reviving their craft and giving them the capital, the money to perform their craft, to revive it or to be true to it. Without them...
Have you found resistance with the style of your tailoring, what you produce? And actually, you, being Hindu, let's be blunt, have you found any resistance at all in the UK with the product, educating people, even going out into the field on shoots?
No, not at all. I mean...
And I'm really pleased you said that.
So let's sort of backtrack to my first shoot over here, which was in the Suffolk border. Essex,
and nor
Suffolk
should
border.
you have been, but I just, you're here, we're talking, this is what it's about. Let's, talk,
So the aim was to create a pair of jodhpurs from our family tailor and use it here. So I had this fantastic fabric. It wasn't born just then. I was getting antique jodhpurs and ripping them apart. Old Savile Row jodhpurs, we're talking 1920s, ripping them apart where no one would actually have the balls or bottle to do it.
Yeah.
Just to revive something that was lost. So
the very original jodhpurs,
yes,
weren't they made with a sort of a sort of what we now think is modern, but back, I'm talking 100 years ago, with a stretchy thread?
So if you look at the trousers that we're wearing or the jeans that you're wearing, the seam within the actual trouser, the fabric, it was almost like a elasticated fabric, so you could almost stretch and move around, and when you're mounted in the saddle. So going back to the fabric that I had chosen, I wanted something that was fit for the field, conducive to UK climate. And I remember sitting down with the tailor and having a very soft tweedy fabric. And I said, look, these are the bottoms. These are the jodhpurs we're going to make. And he looked at me and he gave me a very odd look. And he said, basically, you're going to roast your nuts off. Why the hell do you want to make jodhpurs in this horrible fabric? So then I said to him, no, you don't understand. I'm not going to, various events in India. I'm going back to the UK and I'm going to shoot in them. And soon as I mentioned shooting in jodhpurs to him, you could see his chest puff out. And he spoke about his father tailoring for the British teachers, officers that were in the princely colleges, almost like the Eton of the West we see over here. We had Mayo College and Rajkumar College in Rajkot. And one of these, the tailoring family will tailor for the English officers that were based within the institution. And he said to me, I'm going to make your jodhpurs so perfect that when you mount the gun, you'll have no movement. There'll be no need for you to look down. So your eyes will be on the prize all the time. And he said, when you wear them, he goes, make sure you send me a picture. I'm going to mount it up exactly where this wall is over here. And I would love to see you in them, because he hasn't made, or they didn't make hunting jodhpurs for maybe a generation, so they almost died. Wow. So that we then revived that. Not only that, brought them back over here, tacked up in my jodhpurs and my finery and my Nehru collared jacket. And I remember shooting, it was partridge season, so we weren't shooting pheasant at that point, it was just partridges. And I remember going onto my peg, we spoke about this, I remember going onto my peg, and there was a left-right partridge that came from either side, and bang, bang, it wasn't bang, bang, but it was probably bang, bang. I remember both of them dropping either side, and it was like a picture-perfect moment. And it was probably a fluke, but there was a noise from my right, And this chap, shouted, "Son!" And I thought, he's gonna.
That's
he's
the point
obviously-
where you just gently lick your finger, wipe your eyebrow, just give a wry look, and then walk off.
Yeah. I'm done for the day. I'll pack up and go.
Yeah.
But that's when he shouted out, "Son!" And I thought he was going to compliment the shooting, and he just went, "Where did you get your jodhpurs from?" And
Brilliant.
that is how the jodhpur company was born, because he wanted a pair, so we did him a pair, and we had some nice sort of leather inserts on both sides, and that's how the jodhpur company was
And that's
was
what
born.
bred the strapline "Buy Jodhpur, shoot better," was it? Yeah.
It should be. But that's how the jodhpur company was born. And in terms of the bread and butter jodhpurs themselves, there was a chap called, as I mentioned, shouldn't say chap, it was the Maharaja region of Jodhpur, later Maharaja of Idar. He was ADC to Queen Victoria, Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee. All the preparations were being made for her Diamond Jubilee, and she invited various princes and rajas from India to attend the Jubilee. And during that function, they would have various polo matches. So they were told to bring their finest polo ponies,
Yes.
all their finery. And obviously in those days, they didn't go by air, they travelled by sea. So Sir P. Pratap Singh, he packed his finest polo ponies and his finery. And as he was sailing into the UK, two of his trunks sunk at sea. So he managed to recover some of his jewellery and some of his other finery, but there were certain things that he didn't have. So anyway, he goes into UK now, and he goes to Ham Polo, playing various polo matches. They win various tournaments. They become absolute poster boys. They were probably the best polo team at that point.
And interestingly, just as a little link, obviously you're here at Hownhall, nestled in our wonderful wooded enclave in the Sussex Downs, which of course is part of, or we are, within the Cowdrey Estate.
Yes.
And obviously the Cowdrey Estate is pretty much, I think, the home of British polo. So what a nice link.
Yes, a beautiful
And we
link.
have the man here who makes the
Fantastic.
best jodhpurs in the country.
Well, but yeah, probably the only people to be making, well, there's probably a handful now. There's not that many that are making jodhpurs. So Sir P was invited to a banquet by Queen Victoria. So obviously his stuff had sunk at sea. He didn't have much of his stuff. He had some of his ceremonial attire, but not much of it. So he needed a pair of ceremonial bottoms made, and people of those martial clans would wear a different type of jodhpur bottom for ceremonial occasions.
When you mean different, do you mean same cut, different material?
Different material.
Different
so they'll
material.
wear
So
a
same
cotton.
cut.
Same cut.
Yeah.
But very, very different material. And it
Yeah.
would almost be cream, off-white, not so much khaki.
Maybe thinner, maybe,
A little bit thinner,
lighter
yes.
use, yeah.
So he didn't have anything to wear, so he went to Savile Row, and he had a pair of his polo pants which were scuffed up, a bit muddy, and he sort of had given it to the tailor. He said, "Can you make me a ceremonial pair of these?" And the tailor had never seen anything like that, and he was amazed. So he said, "What is this?" So with Sir P's limited English, he thought that he was asking Sir P, "What's your name?" So, or where you come from, sorry. Where do you come from? And Sir P, not knowing, said, "Jodhpur." So after that day, people involved in sort of equestrian pursuits here
Yes.
started calling those bottoms the Jodhpur bottoms. And that's the history of the Jodhpur
And
bottom.
what year was that?
We're
20?
talking, I don't know the exact year, but
well,
we're
in
talking
the
Queen Victoria's
decade
Diamond
of-
Jubilee.
right, okay, yeah.
So we're talking sort of early 1900s.
Yes.
Yeah. And Sir P himself was a British general in the British Army at that point. He had a small stint in France, I believe, but his main sort of campaign was in North America. And the Jodhpur Lancers, with some of the other princely states, Mysore, Bhavnagar, and a few others, they were very famous for leading one of the last successful cavalry charges, and it was done by sword and lance, where they took, I think, 8 Turkish guns, and imagine they were probably dressed in their jodhpurs.
Incredible.
So there is that functionality
Yeah.
element out of it.
And do you think that the sort of creation, production of modern materials has therefore affected the designers. We now know that a jodhpur is without devaluing it, like a pair of leggings, but with reinforcement, and indeed has lost the elephant ears from the side.
Yeah. So now we're stepping into different realms in terms of technology and what's available to us. Even now, you'll have a pair of jeans which have a percentage of lycra which give your jeans a little stretch. Now we have those materials, and you look at people who ride horses over here. I don't know the percentage, but they're more female orientated. I think there was a tent pegging club over here in Sussex. I don't know if it's still around, but that I think that's been abolished. It's no longer, and I think they were the only tent pegging club. And I from what I remember, they were Sussex based. So if you look at females and what they would wear, they probably wouldn't want baggy jodhpurs because it probably don't make them look very elegant.
Yes.
But for the man, you don't want something tight around your crotch or your backside. No. So jodhpurs were fantastic.
Some of us need that extra room, right? Yeah.
So jodhpurs were fantastic. They made you look very, very elegant. Yes. So in terms of the features of the jodhpur bottom, very, very tight around the calves, ankles, so you could put on a paddock boot or a jodhpur boot, or you could wear them with longer riding boots. And obviously the elephant ear flary sections with the quads and the hamstring allowed movement. That allowed you to bend down. Not so much the bagginess, but the seam. It's very different to how a trouser's cut. Yes. You'll have a dart that goes over your shin, which you wouldn't have in a trouser. Now, that was to do with the cavalry element behind it. So when these princes had to be tacked up in their ceremonial finery, a lot of them, when they were attending these durbars, British durbars, they had to be mounted on horse. Yes. So a lot of long time on the horse, and obviously
so it's like a chafing guard then, is it really?
A chafing guard,
yeah.
And you would find that they were quite high-waisted, so when you were in the saddle and you're moving up and down, very, very comfortable, very comfortable. Yeah. So that functionality then went into hunting attire and officers' attire, and it is largely associated with different cavalry regiments around the world.
So does the jodhpur company, is it fully bespoke, or do you do semi-bespoke as well? What's the sort of range within?
Well, we do everything. So
you do?
The only collection that's very, very limited at the moment is a ready-to-wear collection where you can just pick and put on. The only reason why we've been a bit slow with that is because we wanted to give our clients that Maharaja feeling. So we'll come to you, we'll take out our humidor, we'll cut the cigar for you, we'll have a whiskey. Then we start talking about the tailoring. So it's more about the experience. So made to measure and bespoke.
That's a slick sales pitch, that is, isn't it? Start with that.
Yeah,
they're hooked already.
It's about reviving the old way of doing things.
Yes.
I remember I had to lengthen a stock on my side-by-side shotgun. And I remember going to the stocker, selecting the walnut. And we said, okay, this will match, da-da-da. He took my measurements, I mounted the gun. So I shook his hand and I said, just let me know how much it will be. And he said, no. I said, I was confused. He said, when it's done and you're happy with it, that's when you pay. And that taxidermists are the same. So it's that whole old way of doing things where honour was honour, handshake was a handshake, and that meant, hang on a second, this guy's going to pay. And it's almost giving that client a taste of how things should be done, the perfect way, excellence. Yes. And I think that's important. We lose that today.
It's not always reciprocal though, but you know what? No, you're absolutely right. And that loosely backs up the theme of these podcasts, coincidentally. And it is about that striving for perfection. And it's not about how much gain in material or monetary form. It's about someone being committed to their art,
of course,
their skill. Yeah. No matter what they deliver, that's an amazing thing.
Yep.
And I think that's a lot of a thing that a lot of people just don't have. Maybe it's conscious, maybe they're just not interested. But I think it's a wonderful thing when you find it.
Of course. And another important thing about the made-to-order or bespoke process is the client, tailor, or myself relationship. So our main job is to tailor something correctly for the client, how he would like it, and it's got to be fitted in the right areas, a little bit looser in certain areas. But you buy something from us, and you put on a bit of weight or you lose weight, we'll be there, and we hide fabric within the garment. We'll open it up, we'll take it in,
clever.
and we don't charge for that. That's our service. So I find that is lacking when you go on a computer and you go, hang on a second, Google vest or tweed vest, I like that, I'm going to order that. Likeness, it may not fit, you send it back. Where is that customer to tailor relationship? And I think that's lost when we're bulk buying, or we're on the computer and we're just literally putting a few digits and it gets to your house tomorrow. You're losing that relationship where you have that bond with your tailor. He'll understand your fitting. He'll know your body measurements. He'll have them archived. He'll assess. When I go and do a fitting, I assess posture, shoulder slopes. Is it dipping? Does he have a pelvic tilt? Does he have a military chest?
This is like a gun fit.
Literally.
Like a gun fit. It's really interesting. No two are the same.
Exactly. And I think losing that now, with things that are mass produced, you can just click and buy. That hurts me, and I don't want to see. Okay, fine. Yep, I know that's happening, but I don't want to see what we do being lost. And I think that's quite
small,
important.
Medium, large, extra large. Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you? I'd assume then, by what you've just said, that which probably answers the next question, you must have a high percentage of what I call regular, repeat clients.
Yes, of course.
Coming back to you season on season, maybe coming in, asking for something that's not necessarily related to shooting. I'd like a jacket made for. Do you find that? Have you got that?
Absolutely. I mean, the way we operate, most of it's word of mouth.
Yes.
I'm a massive believer of, if you go somewhere, you should be dressed in your best.
Yes.
My grandfather always.
I'll apologise for my appearance.
No, it's okay. So my
no, you're meant to say, no, you look really cool, Simon. No worries.
You look really cool, Simon.
Yeah. Just listen to this one on audio, okay?
So my fiance's grandfather, maternal grandfather, dapper chap. And he was a massive inspiration of mine, actually. And he always said, Viraj, when you go out and you're dressed to the T, you're not doing it for yourself. You're respecting the host's invite. You're respecting him by turning up at his house or, the restaurant where he's invited you to, and you're honouring him. If you don't dress well, you're almost saying, this invite isn't that important. You're not that important of a man.
Do you think you can overdress for an occasion as well?
No, never. You've got to be in your. I'm actually very, very casual and underdressed. Actually,
no,
I was meant to put on a jacket. One of my favourite jackets. I was meant to put them on, but we thought, we're having fun. Let's just start this. So this is me being very, very underdressed. But you can never be overdressed.
Is there ever a day where you look scruffy? Is there ever a day where you just pull on that t-shirt and those ripped jeans and go, I'm just going to slouch today? I can't imagine it.
Very rarely. I remember going to drop off something to a customer. And I was in my joggers. I was actually wearing joggers. And the customer's wife looked at me and went, Viraj, are you always in character? Like, you look like you should be in a film set or something, But people love it and they warm to it, which is nice.
Yeah, it is nice. It's lovely.
Have
you ever done anything for TV?
TV?
Period productions, supplying sort of wardrobe, things like that?
Well, I don't know if you had come across it. Beecham's House. It was about this East India Company trader set up in India. It was done by a very famous director, Gurinder Chadha, who did Bend It Like Beckham.
Honestly, I've heard of it.
Okay.
I'm familiar, but I haven't seen it.
So I had been invited by them to give them a turban masterclass on the correct period of turban, what fabric they used, the type of turban they used.
As a Hindu, do you wear turbans? I noticed in some of your photography, and it confused me, and it's purely my ignorance yet again. As I understand it, Sikhs wear a turban.
They wear a
because
turban.
obviously they grow their hair. I
Yep.
can't remember the term for that, but they grow their hair, wrap their hair up. But I noticed in a couple of pictures you have
I have the khaki
a form of a turban. There seems to be
Yep.
slightly different ways in which it's tied or
Yes,
put.
yes.
But I noticed obviously you cut your hair. So is that just a traditional dress, or is there actually a religious link?
Well, it's very, very spiritual to us.
What does it signify for you?
See, the turban originally is a utility tool. I'll just describe it as you're going on a shoot. It's very hot. You're in the desert of Kutch or Rajasthan, and it's to absorb the heat going into your scalp. It's to take the moisture in and not let it penetrate your scalp. The sun's quite hot, and then you've pitched up. There's no water. You go to a well and you need to fetch the bucket. You tie a knot on the bucket. You put it down the well with your turban, so it turns into a tool now.
How
so then
long
you
is
pick
a
up.
turban,
So
normally?
the Rajput ones or the safars that we generally wear are 12 meters long. So not many people have a turban that long.
Meters.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So then you're in the field, you're hunting, and you've got water from a river or a well or something, and you wanna clarify the water. You then put your turban over the cup. You pour the water in. It turns into a sieve. It can turn into a bandage knot.
Brilliant.
You can, you've just shot a big nilgai and you need to drag it. You tie a knot to the nilgai leg and you drag it with your turban.
Do you know, we're
it's a
so unrefined here. We have a tobacco tin with a match in it, a condom, and a piece of chalk as a survival kit. So you really got it.
So it was a utility. So it was a utility tool.
Yeah.
But going back in terms of me wearing the turban, my grandmother always said to me, there's 3 things that are very important for people that come from where we come from. And that is the sword. Never forget the prominence of the sword. Never forget the moustache. I never want you to be clean shaven, or your moustache should never be shaven completely.
Actually, sometimes you've taken the beard
I take the
down,
beard off,
always
but I
keep
never
the moustache.
always keep the moustache.
Yes.
And we only shave our moustache off when our father passes away as a mark of mourning respect. Other than that, a Rajput man should and will have a turban, a moustache.
And then through mourning, you'd allow it just to grow
You would like
back.
to grow.
Yes.
So she said, the sword, never forget the provenance of the sword and the history of the sword. Always, you must have a moustache, and never forget the significance of a turban. So those 3 important things. And going back into time, sort of 1900s, all Rajput men would wear a turban. You go into a function, you would wear the turban. And it's only now, obviously, we're here, we've got short hair.
Yes.
We don't keep long hair like the Sikhs do, so we wouldn't need to keep it intact. But if we go to, say, the temple, or there's a religious function, the turbans are worn. It's mandatory. Yeah. And when the British were recruiting from these martial races, the Sikhs, the Rajputs, the turban was so important. They said, do not take the turban away. It turns them into kings on the battlefield. Yeah. They opted not to take the hard helmet. Said, no, we want to die in our turbans. Yes. And it gave them that extra elan in the battlefield and that extra strength. So the British actually promoted the turban, both for the Sikhs and the Rajputs.
But ended up wearing the pith.
The pith, exactly. Yeah. And obviously, there's only so much a turban can do to, 303 round. So obviously, we had to adapt.
Sure.
But so sometimes I do wear the turban, and it's going back to those old pictures that I look at. You go to Wesley Richards. You go to Wesley Richards in Birmingham, and you would see the wall adorned with Indian shikar hunting pictures, and they'll all be in their turbans. So it's about recreating that look and that bit of history. And I remember speaking to someone, good friend of mine actually. I mentioned no names, but because obviously the shooting world's quite small.
Cool. Absolutely.
He's a PH and it's up in Africa.
Yes.
And he had someone shoot a fairly big-sized animal.
Yes.
And he wanted to take a picture and stuff, and he was looking a little bit scruffy. And he said, at least take my hat, honor the thing that you've just killed.
Yes.
Yes. Put something on your head, honor it.
Absolutely.
So I think that's quite important. So when you're dressed up.
So you've clearly got a defined style with the Jobber Company, which we discussed is that beautiful crossover of traditional or tradition to you and westernized flavors and then the sort of concoction of materials that are more akin to cold, wet weather and so on and so forth. How do you take that forward? Is it by further tweaking the design, or is your pursuit of excellence in effect a continuity, a continuation of high, keeping that bar, managing the quality? Where does the jobber company go in the next 3, 4, 5 years?
No, I completely understand what you're saying. I do feel that it's important to keep up with the modernization of fashion and the way things are going. So the ready-to-wear collection we are working on, but the only reason why it's taken so long is because that excellence needs to filter into the ready-to-wear garments, where if you did want it tailored or taken out, we've got enough fabric and hidden things within the garment which you can then, it wouldn't be made to measure or bespoke, because it wouldn't be, but you can adjust it and tweak it with our in-house alteration specialists.
So it's making stuff more accessible, because
exactly.
I'm not in the rag trade and I won't pretend to understand it, but I obviously would be well aware of the fact that it would be, starting with such an incredible high quality, throughout,
Yes.
USPs and the overall finished garment, to then create something sort of a bit more sort of, fast and furious. One would easily think that could devalue,
No, of course.
what you've created in the first place. So I guess there's a sort of a...
Yes, it all relates to the consumer. Some people want stuff that's fast and they want it tomorrow, or they want it there and then. Some people like the process, they like waiting, and they like having pictures through each stage of the garment where it's an actual piece of fabric, and then they have the cutout for their particular body size, and they see the manufacturing process. Some people love that. But in terms of where does the job per company go in terms of its design and aesthetics, I will always stay true to the heritage. That will never ever change. Yeah. You might wear a safari jacket of ours with a pair of shorts and a pair of trainers. That's where it would change. But in terms of the actual look, we will stay true to what we are quite proud of, and
we should be very proud of.
Exactly. So that heritage will always stay the focal point of what we do.
Do you feel though? Just stepping back, so I'm just thinking about, and I get you call it the. Did you say the ready to wear?
Ready to wear. Yes.
But does that become you becoming more just business focused in going, oh, you got those people out there that want it quick, they just want it done, let's feed them? Is there a fear that could pull away from what you really are, which is a beautiful, traditional, hand-tailored garment that actually, within reason, doesn't have a timed process, rather like the gun stock? When it's finished, you pay. Now, I know someone's going to say, hey, the season starts in 3 months, so, that's a no-brainer. But do you feel that the ready-to-wear could be perceived as something that pulls away from the standards that exist with the fully tailored clothing?
To answer
I mean, obviously not, because you're doing it, but it's just an interesting, it's like having a restaurant and then almost sort of a slight sort of top-end fast food next to it.
So the ready-to-wear stuff would be carefully curated, and we're not talking 50, 100 blazers or Nehru shooting gilets ready to go. We're talking maybe 10 or 20 when you come into our gallery, you have a look and you like it. You don't really want to sit down for an hour because you've got to head back onto the M25, but you want a slice. You want a slice of the jobber company and take it away.
So what you're actually doing is just removing, in layman's terms, the first third, say, or half of the full tailoring process. Would that be correct?
Exactly.
So rather than being measured up and bits of paper and stuff, you're going, well, there's your starter.
Yeah.
Let's adjust it to fit.
But I can't always. I've got to look at various people. I've got to look at various clients and what their taste usually goes down, what route it goes down, and see, if I think like me, and it's everything that I would do to satisfy Viraj, then everyone would walk around in pith hats and canes. That's my ideal world. But
hopefully with some clothes on.
Yes, well. Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's how I see the ideal
Yes.
world, handlebar moustache, pith hats and canes with maybe a concealed dagger.
Yes.
But I've got to cater towards other people. I talk to family, friends, and sometimes they have to calm me down. And this is okay, you might like this, but Joe Blogs might not like this.
Yeah.
You've got to get the balance right. It can't be, hardcore, swords and taxidermy all the time. We don't understand it. We don't understand why you would shoot something and stuff it and put it on the wall. You come into our gallery in Hatfield, it's taxidermy everywhere. I like it, but you've got to be a little bit cautious. So obviously having the gallery in Hatfield now, it's a small space, but where we're located is within the stable yard.
Yes.
And you have various people coming in, and you've got to appreciate their morals or their scruples and what they believe in.
Well, I can
Some might
imagine-
be vegetarian,
I can imagine your items, garments, pieces, just specifically the clothing, would equally look really cool in a sort of almost a contemporary setting as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I like both. I think they're great, and I love we're into taxidermy and antiques and bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Love that look.
Yeah.
But I do. I can sort of see even jeans, the Nehru,
of course.
and something, or the jobbers and maybe even trainers. I mean, it's really cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. With the Nehru gilet, a lot of people wear it as a overgarment with jumpers, ties. You could wear it with a polo t-shirt, jeans. It's so universal. I think that's something that I'm really, really proud about. Where we're getting that heritage and we're making it quite contemporary. And you'll see them a lot now. You go into London, Kensington, and you'll see a lot of these folks wearing the gilet, Nehru gilet. Where I come into it is, we've had this collar for a long time in our family.
I think it's exciting times because I see a sort of I used the term earlier, a new wave of shooters evolving. And this can be meat eaters, it could be vegetarians, doesn't matter. Religion, food, it's irrelevant. But there's sort of, meeting of minds, clay shooting. So it's something you can sort of drop into, drop out. You're not committing to a big day in the field. I'm seeing people now getting more into their clothes. Buying the cars. It's like this sort of life. I hate the term lifestyle, but we've seen it in the schools. People are really taking a pride in their appearance and they're sort of investing in it. And I think that's quite exciting because then it, for you specifically, it takes tweed, which is largely known as something that would be worn in the field for, in effect, 4 months a year. But now we're seeing people. We've got some guys and girls that come in here, obviously not in summer, but out of season.
Yes.
And they wear their +4s.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's great.
I find it fantastic, and that's what it.
And we've got
should be about.
vegetarians that shoot here.
Yeah, of course.
Because the clays, they're just clays.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they can enjoy the sport.
Of course.
They can enjoy meeting like-minded people. Yes, they can have a courgette fritter or something and whatever. It's I think it's lovely. And I think that's really refreshing.
Yes, I think it's so important not to judge things on the surface. I think dialogue is very important in terms of talking, understanding something. So understanding why maybe Viraj does the jodhpur breeches and why he's so passionate about reviving it. And also the vegetarian, why they don't eat meat, or why you shoot, and why you're in the gun trade. I think dialogue is very important because if you don't
dialogue
understand,
is essential. But I think it's you just said understand. I think that's the key.
Yeah.
I think it's so easy, isn't it, to think your way's the right way. I mean, you personally, I mean, generally.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. You want to do this.
Yeah.
But we are also very different, and that surely is we're going on to a totally different subject here.
Yeah.
It's that sort of militant view.
Yes.
That's my way or the highway.
Yeah.
And if only people could just accept,
Of course.
understand, not necessarily agree.
Yep.
I understand that lots of people don't like the killing of animals. I don't like the killing of animals. I will shoot a pheasant. I see some hideous stuff on the social media, internet, whatever. of, say, how dogs might be treated in China or places like that.
Yeah, of course.
I find it utterly repulsive.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't, and there are people I know who eat meat.
Yes.
That don't agree with game shooting. There's a weird sort of mix there because they'll eat meat and so on. So there's all the, but it's not to judge. It's to understand. Well, I don't like guns, or I don't. That's fine,
Of course.
But I think the thing is and maybe I'm stating the obvious, and also talking about something that's never going to happen. It's about just accepting alternative views, isn't it? As long as they don't come into yours and you don't go into theirs.
But somewhere down the line, the person who believes in something almost has this element of being correct in a certain way in terms of what they believe.
Of course.
So you can understand it.
But
so
you should let followers come to you,
yes,
not go around shoving it down others' throats.
Exactly,
saying,
I'm a massive believer of that.
Yeah?
Yeah. But you've got to understand. Now, I know we're digressing, but
No.
I'm quite keen on field sports, and I promote it, and I've brought many people to field
And you're
sports.
a Hindu.
Yeah, exactly. So
It should be a vegetarian.
well, yeah,
Maybe.
Well, not.
But no, but it doesn't
where we
matter.
come from. Yeah. But it brings me on to. I know we're digressing from the tailoring, but I find this
From the tailoring.
I find this very, very interesting. So I used to, when I used to go on a shoot or stalked a deer, and I've managed to colour deer, harvest a deer, I'd put it onto the Instagram as a story. I wouldn't put it up as a picture.
Yes.
Because, people might be offended. It's a story. It might stay on there for 24 hours. It will go, and the folks that are interested in it will appreciate it.
And the others won't see it.
My reason for doing that is you've got a tailor or a tailoring brand. The chap who owns the brand has woken up at 4 a.m. to sit in a high seat for a deer that he may not even get. It's to colour species. It's to help a farmer. If that chap has put that much dedication in waking up in the morning and maybe harvesting some venison to give to charity family members or introduce people to wild game, imagine the detail he will put into your gilet or your blazer.
Absolutely.
We are not a high street, Oxford Street shop. We want to tell people, no, we live and breathe this. It's important to us. And you may not get other people who tailor clothes that go out there. There are there, but they're needle in a haystack or a handful.
Yes.
So it's to show people, we live and breathe this. This is part of our heritage. This is something that we're interested in. Animal conservation is something that we're interested in.
Yes.
And so going back to my point, I would have many vegetarians, many Hindus in the DMs, and some of them being pretty vile and using language that's atrocious.
Yes.
Now, at first, I used to get, your blood boils. But obviously, you've got to be a gentleman about things, and you've got to dialogue. So that's why I say dialogue is very important. Now, I've spoken about why I've done it, the reason behind it, and why I think it's important. We've almost become friends. They almost understand why we do it.
Do you know what? That's fabulous. That's a lovely story. And there was a story I'm so glad you've come out with that. That sort of final point on that one. I mean, because it is about perception, isn't it? And I think where I want to be careful because everyone to their own. But no, some things I don't agree with. When you've got these people in certain clothing holding the beast, and it's all a bit, for me, I think it does give off the wrong impression. If you have someone who, let's face it, if you don't manage deer, they're going to turn into a hell of a mess.
Yes.
And that'll be a hideous thing. So they do need managing. We're not God, but they do need managing. Yes. They need culling.
Yep.
All right? And it's done for a reason.
Of course.
Small reason is crop protection. Large reason is food source.
Absolutely.
Main reason is protecting the herd so it can flourish.
Yeah, of course.
I think if that's put across, properly, like I say, perception and how it's shown and the reason behind it. And like you said, the amount of, you don't just grab a 243 or 308 and go out and start whacking deer. There's a huge amount of training.
Of course.
And of course now there's the DSC 1 and 2 and all those other absolutely relevant and important things you need to get under your belt prior. But I guess the downside with these otherwise called sensitive topics,
Yes.
there will always be that harsh, militant sort of. I mean, I find it amazing that Sabs wear balaclavas, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's valid and everyone's allowed their own opinion, of course they are, and their own beliefs.
Yeah.
Why would you hide that?
Yeah, of course.
Just
Absolutely.
as an interesting point.
Yeah. It's no different to a bank robber, dressed up in in his.
You might assume someone's hiding something, where
Exactly.
there are a group of people there going, "This is us. This is our belief."
Yeah. But there's no logical debate. That's what I'm trying to say. I think dialogue is very important to understand one another.
You are right.
I shot a red stag up in Scotland a few years back, and there's a ritual that we do as Hindus. First kill, we anoint our weapon, just so we know it's sacred, it's firing straight, so we get a drop of blood and we anoint it on the barrels, or we'll put it on the sword. And back in the day, if we didn't go out, if we went to the field and we took our sword out of its scabbard and we didn't kill anything, or we didn't get any game, we would take the auspicious finger, have a little slit and just drop a bit of blood onto the blade.
Is that right?
Yeah, so for us it's a very sacred thing. So I put a story on Instagram with went into the deer carcass, drop of blood, put it on the barrel as a new Mauser. So I've been told through my grandfathers and his grandfathers, when you get a new weapon, you anoint it with blood, the first kill, and you're respecting that weapon. Yes. So I did that. So there was a few people on Instagram DM'd, "Oh, you think you're very macho, you're twirling your moustache and you've dropped blood on the thing. Who the hell do you think you are? Da 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 da." So then obviously dialogue, debate, told them why we do it, why it's important to people who have done it before me, and what they believe in. And it's just about carrying on that ritual. And then it's about, I spoke to them about the deer on the glen. And I said, if you don't cull them, they'll wither away and you'll see skeletons. Yes. I said, do you want to see skeletons? Should I show you what happens when they don't get culled?
Yes.
And then you've got deer who are carrying diseases, which will then give it into the next generation.
That's it.
And then to carry a healthy herd, there is no such thing as a healthy herd. And what people don't understand from sort of Eastern countries and areas, we have no natural predators. No. So we can't leave nature to do...
Yeah, no bears out there.
Exactly. There's no tigers or lions, you know, and wolves. So we have to almost manage it. And we enjoy the deer. I loved it. One of my favorite animals. Because we love it so much, that is why we're involved in the welfare of the various species that we find here. I think that is so important. And then obviously, when we, stalking up in Norfolk, Suffolk, we are on sugar beet, various other crops, and we're literally protecting vegetarian food sources.
No,
so
that's
don't get
right.
hammered.
No, this is the thing. It crosses over. It's crop protection. It's land management. It's habitat protection. It's all these wonderful things that, in effect, come under the term conservation.
Exactly.
I think you've got a wonderful take, and I think a take that anybody who listens to this podcast or watches it on YouTube, who's like-minded is obviously going to agree. But I hope that there's people that'll listen or watch this that are not necessarily into field sports, and you will be the sort of starting point for hopefully for some to have an understanding of course, the detail which is often missed. You only see the sort of blood, the guts, and then you assume, and therefore there the problem starts. Yeah. I've enjoyed this thoroughly. You will have to come back and do a part B.
I would love to.
C, D, and onwards. I think that is a beautiful note to finish on, and I think it gives listeners something to think about.
Of course.
Because it's a beautiful take.
Yes.
And I think one that actually, if people accepted, would actually make it a nicer place and, a calmer a calmer place, you know.
Yes. I think we
So
completely agree with our thoughts, and no, hats off to you for taking this initiative to do this, because without dialogue, we can't voice our opinions, nor can we understand opinions. And for people to flourish mentally and what they pursue as careers, we need dialogue. We need people like you bringing this out to the masses, where we wouldn't usually speak so openly. So thank you for having me here. It's
do you know what? Pleasure. It's been a real pleasure. Viraj Singh of the Jobber Company, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Absolute pleasure, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.